Boom! What's up, Waves Capital? It's Royce Jacob, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we will of course be discussing Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners, because at this moment in time, there is no sector in the entire market that's more exciting and more important, especially for us to talk about, than this one, okay? And since this is a sector, these are some stocks that fall so near and dear to the hearts of Waves Cap, I could not be more pumped to make this video, not only because I love discussing these stocks, but because I know it's pretty damn likely that we're all printing some profits right now. Okay, so we're going to keep this video short and sweet for you guys. We're not going to be discussing all that much fundamentals today, but we will spend some time on the charts, look at a few of our favorite names, kicking it off with Bitcoin. Of course, giving you guys a macro picture. The price action of Bitcoin will heavily impact that of Bitcoin miners. We will then move on to our number one, or at least my personal number one, and I know many of yours as well, Riot Platforms and or previously Riot Blockchain. We'll move on to Bitfarms, which saw some super exciting price action today, and I haven't covered Bitfarms in a while, but I'm excited to cover them right now because Bitfarms, 44% move to the upside today. Thankfully, Waves Capital was equipped with some crazy calls that went ballistic today. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. And we'll close it out with good old Miss Mara, good old Marathon Digital Holdings. It's probably been even longer, honestly, since I've covered Mara on the channel. So I'm excited to close out the video by talking one of our OGs and just really discuss the excitement and really everything going on in the crypto sector, because this beast has officially awoken, and I'm so pumped for what's in store, not only for the remainder of the month, but for the rest of 2023 and for that macro long-term bull cycle to continue. Okay, so that's the video, you guys. Before we dive into the charts, please give the video a like if you go on to gain value from it today. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here and want to ride some of these 2023 waves with us. And of course, let me know in the comments down below, were you ready for the moves up today? Were you holding shares? Were you holding call options, better yet? And if not, are you buying right now? And just what are your thoughts about the crypto sector? Always interested in your guys' opinion. So I'll see you in the comments downstairs. But before we talk technicals, I do want to discuss some brief fundamentals because we did get the CPI report today. The CPI report from December did fall directly in line with analyst estimates, which is why the markets did see some upside today. And if you're a part of the newsletter group, if you're part of Waves Cap, you would know that we have been expecting this. But I don't want to dive too much into that. We got a cool CPI report. That hurdle has been jumped over. And really right now, we're pretty much in blue sky territory aside from some Q1 earnings. But I do want to preface the video by reading kind of some of my thoughts around the crypto sector right now. And then, of course, I'll just expand on these as we dive into the charts. Okay, so most stocks are seeing green following this inflation data. But the only sector that's really worth talking about today is crypto. Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners are on absolute fire. And considering Riot Platforms is our single largest holding, the Waves Cap portfolio is on fire as well. Heck, even that Bitfarms 120.23 $1 call position that I established months ago. And you guys, honestly, I had completely given up on this at this point. I was ready for these to expire worthless. But this position, which closed the day being pretty sizable because this 10x today has revived itself. Those contracts are currently trading at 6 cents. It went from 1 cent at the beginning of the day to 10 cents at the end of the day. So that's a 10x contract. Of course, these are highly risky. And again, I thought I'd completely discounted these from the portfolio, but that's why it's awesome to just hold contracts like that sometimes, you guys, right? Some contracts that are risky, but even some small positions, like this was a very small position, but of course it became somewhat meaningful, still small relative to most of my positions in all honesty, but to go from nothing to a whole lot of something in the span of one trading day is awesome. That's why it's always good just to hold some of those very, very small speculative plays on deck, which I don't directly advise, but again, if the gamble falls correctly, it does pay off big time. So those contracts, again, 6 cents, currently trading at 10 cents at the time of as we close the day. And Bitfarms closed the day 30% of the time of writing this, but closed the day up almost 45%, which is absolutely bonkers. And as goes with pretty much every play we're talking about, Yeah, absolutely love to see it, you guys. So I remain extremely confident in the current build out of the portfolio, but on a day like today, it'd be irresponsible not to realize some gains and take some profits. So this is just a bit of insight into how I view days like today. And in all honesty, you guys, although I do still believe that these will all climb higher over the coming days, weeks, because we trade almost predominantly options at Waves Capital. I do hold common shares, many common shares in a lot of the names we're talking about today, but trader of options. And when you see options 2x, 3x in a single day, even if you believe the markets will travel higher or what you're holding contracts on will go higher, it's important to remember that options trade on perceived volatility, not necessarily price action itself, but what investors predict price action to be, future price action. So on a day like today, when we're seeing hyper volatility, it's likely that the markets are now pricing in a lot of the potential upside. Okay, so regardless, when you 2x a position, it's important just to not get greedy, take some profits, and that was done today. So on top of taking profits, I was also grateful that we had some positions slacking or seeing red, so we could use these profits to capitalize. P.S. Steak and sushi this weekend is a given. I trust you'll all treat yourselves to your favorite meals as well, because I know, once again, Bitcoin miners are popping off. Bitcoin miners are, I mean, if there was one sector in the markets to define Waves Capital and to really kind of just define the entirety, maybe not the entirety of my YouTube career, but really the bones of this YouTube channel and where we all started, it's Bitcoin miners. So once again, I'm just so pumped, not only for the sector to be doing well, but because I know so many of you are eating good. And, cheers, Waves Cap. Cheers to a great play. Cheers to a great start to the year. And, this is only the beginning. So cheers, you guys. If you do want to know how I'm trading on a day-to-day basis with my daily newsletters, Trade Alert, this is the macro analysis, along with where I explain my trades. And, of course, a complete breakdown of my entire personal portfolio, which, again, is updated every trading day during market hours. That's the first link in the description box down below. Complete portfolio, daily newsletter, $15 a month, $40 for every 3 months. You can try free for 7 days. And if you don't like it, just peace out. It's all good. But I appreciate it if you guys join. If not, it's your loss. I appreciate you watching this video anyway. So let's talk some price action. Bitcoin really setting the stage for some of the price action we've been seeing. BTC seeing one of its largest daily candles in quite a long time, at least to the upside, up almost 5%, and at some points up over 5% on the day as I record this video on January 12th. Okay, so far, so good. If you guys watched the last Bitcoin video, you would know that we've been predicting a potential inverse head and shoulders pattern to play out. And really, I haven't touched these arrows since that video. You guys can go back and watch it for validation, but I've not touched these arrows since that last video. And right now we're on pretty much the perfect trajectory to completing the neckline onto this inverse head and shoulders pattern. So as you can see here, inverse head and shoulders, first shoulder, initial shoulder came down, creating the head. And then what we're seeing right now, the move up we're seeing right now, is that neckline, which will then go on to the mirrored shoulder pattern. Okay, so I do think that we come up, and honestly, I think we're going to reclaim 20K, given the momentum that we're seeing in the markets right now, given the fact that we got that cool CPI report, and given the fact that I'm really just bullish on the majority of the markets. So I think Bitcoin rides that wave. I think growth sectors, small caps, are consumed by the January effect, which we've been talking so much about, which we did predict. So none of this is all that surprising. But if I'm being honest, the January effect so far is exceeding the expectations I had for it. And we're really blowing through some of the price targets in the portfolio. So again, just cheers to a well-played, cheers to great calls, you guys. So again, Bitcoin forming the neckline. I do think we plateau around 20K, very historic, historic ceiling, historic floor. 20K level is pretty infamous when it comes to BTC. So I do think we slow down around 20K. I think we will come up to 20K, another grand or two. Slow down around 20K, probably bounce around sideways, create that secondary shoulder, and then come spring, I do think that by April 1st, I'll say, Bitcoin will see 24K, and I think we'll probably hover around there for a while, because ultimately the macro is still, interest rates are still objectively high, and capital is still more expensive than it was, say, in like 2020, 2021. So I don't know if personally, I don't think, and I'm pretty confident in the fact that new all-time highs will not come this year, but I do think that this will set the stage for the overall bull market, the overall hype cycle to continue in 2024. And once the Bitcoin halving hits, we'll probably see 100K by 2025. Okay, so that's my long-term call. But right now, we're really focusing on the short term. Let's take a look at Riot right now. Okay, so Riot closing the day up almost 15%, absolutely crushing it. Again, this was, I mean, we pretty much couldn't have timed it better. I loaded up on a whole bunch of, if I'm being honest, I mean, and I'm sure members of Waves Capital, of the Portfolio Newsletter Group, wouldn't care, but we loaded up on February 17th, $5 Riot calls over here, like right as the new year hit. And so far, those things are up, I want to say like 7 or 8x. I didn't even check today because I've just been focused on like profit taking and really riding out these positions. But I believe those have at least 7 or 8x at this point. And yeah, I mean, just cheers to a well played position, you guys. So Riot looking amazing. Of course, these other call options are doing well as well. So if you got calls on any of these, congratulations to you as well. Riot it's tough not to say it's looking good. But it's also a bit difficult to say that we are not approaching very, very short-term oversold territory, which I did call on this day, actually. You can see if we go to 4-hour candles, I was initially worried about Riot, that we would see a pullback, which we did yesterday. We were down around like 4 or 5% at one point, this little pullback right here. It's always alarming, you guys, if you have the RSI indicator. When RSI, I'll move my fat head real quick. When RSI reaches 80 on either 4-hour or especially daily time frames. Okay, so you can see that Riot did hit 80, and once we hit that 80 mark on the RSI down here, if you guys can see my cursor moving around, this is one of my favorite indicators when it comes to general momentum. Okay, especially when you're seeing kind of a hype cycle play out like we're seeing right now, maybe even short squeeze, you could say, but Riot did hit 80. That's when I was expecting a pullback. We did see that short-term pullback. But, the fact that we bounced back the day after, and of course the CPI data did fall in favor of that, and Bitcoin doing so well fell in favor of that as well. That did play in Riot's favor. But, it's always important to take a look at the RSI. And, of course, because it does, once again, as I just said, give you an indicator as to when things might be topping out. So, saw that little pullback. The fact that we immediately resumed the rally really speaks to Riot's underlying strength and kind of the optimism and sentiment of investors behind Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners right now. Obviously, as you can see, Riot, Mara up 30%, absolutely crazy. So Mara was more oversold than Riot. We'll look at that at the end once again. But when it comes to short-term targets, I do think that Riot on daily candles, and we'll look at the rest of these on daily candles because this trend is so strong that I feel it is more relevant to look at daily candles as opposed to 4 hours. I do think that Riot sees a second wave here. Again, you came up, saw that little pullback. I do think that Riot on daily candles, on the daily RSI, will come up to test that 80 region once again. So I think we get one more move up in the short term. My initial target, if you guys have watched my previous videos, has been at about $6.65, just a historical level for Riot, historical ceiling. I'll probably take some profits there. I do think it's possible because this move up of 7.5% from here would probably take us to right around that 80 level on RSI. So I think we probably come up to about 670-ish, 675, see a short-term pullback, maybe go sideways for a bit. But ultimately, by the end of the month, I do expect Riot to reclaim this 770. As you can see right here, it's an 820 region. This is a gap that was created back here. As you can see right here, this 775 level is really a strong medium term, I would say on a medium term horizon on the downtrend that we've been in since August, that has acted as a strong ceiling for Riot. So I do expect us to slow down significantly around 775. But ultimately, I want to be surprised if as the seasons progress. Again, this likely will not happen until Bitcoin reclaims this is so big, until Bitcoin reclaims the 24,000 level. But if Bitcoin sees 24K, I think it's very possible for Riot to retest the low that we saw in January of 2022, around $12.50 to $13. And ultimately, if Bitcoin sees 24K, I think Riot will be at least, I'm confident that if Bitcoin climbs back above 24K, Riot can easily climb back above $12. So that's Riot. Let's get that back on here for the newsletter. Let's talk Bitfarms, and then we'll close it out with Mara, okay? So Bitfarms. I mean, Bitfarms looking amazing. Bitfarms has obviously gotten smoked along with the rest of the sector. I'll just move that around after. As you can see here, Bitfarms from high to low was down 97% from the high we saw in November of 2021. But hey, that's kind of just the story with the markets. And Bitfarms right now is really making up some ground. Obviously, 44% up in a day. Their market cap is currently sitting at 150 mil. And that's a big reason why we're seeing Bitfarms jump so much. Again, as we always say, the smaller the market cap, the less inflow it takes, the less capital inflow it takes to appreciate the value of the individual share price, right? So Bitfarms seeing somewhat of a short squeeze, I'm assuming, seeing some hype because, calls a lot of times, and I see this in the comments, so this is how I know this, that certain investors shared this sentiment. A lot of investors, especially retail, view Riot and Mara, especially calls, because they're such well understood names. They're kind of household names if you're involved in crypto at all at this point. So a lot of times those call options may be, or even share prices may seem expensive. So even $7, $6, there's still investors out there who think, oh, you know what, Bitfarms is $1. It's cheaper than Riot and Mara. Although obviously the price of a share has zero to do with the actual underlying value of the stock. It's all about the market cap relative to revenue, et cetera, and profits. So just because Bitfarms is $1, just quick PSA. I know most of you know this, but if not, just because Bitfarms is $1, it is not cheaper than Riot and Mara. Okay, I still think Riot and Mara are better companies, but when we're seeing hype, which is what we're seeing right now, stocks like Bitfarms will get that residual hype, and that's what we saw today. Okay, so again, thank God I had what is now a pretty meaningful call position on Bitfarms open. High risk, but meaningful, because again, those things 10x today, and that was just so sick to see again, because I completely discounted that position at this point, honestly. So Bitfarms looking good. My target for January, my end of January target for quite a while, like since I established those calls about a month ago, I think, has been $1.25, just because that's a historical, again, floor and ceiling for Bitfarms. So I do think the 125 region will come into play here. We are seeing a nice second wave now. So that 125 region from current levels at just over $1 are about 25-30% up from here. So is that possible? Yes. Is it possible to see tomorrow or next week in the case that Bitcoin rips over the weekend? Absolutely. And will I ride out the rest of these calls until we see it, just for fun? Because again, the position is still relatively small when compared to all of the other positions in the portfolio. I'm so pumped on this high risk position, and again, it's risky, but that's just the risk that I'm willing to take as a trader, and that's part of the fun of trading at the same time. Again, that's for full transparency. That's probably only like 2.5%. It is 2.5, maybe. Probably closer to 2% of the entirety of my options portfolio. So I just want to make that very clear. But I'm really excited to see what happens with Bitfarms. 125 is my short-term target. And as we zoom out here, I do think it's possible for Bitfarms to kind of retest, that similar to Riot, those early February lows that have not yet been retested, and really to fill this gap over here. Everyone's going to be looking at some of these lows. So I think a safe bet for Bitfarms, if we do really start ripping again, is to fill this gap over here from May, which has not yet been filled, and that would take us from about 250 to 260. So 250 to 260 if Bitcoin sees 24K is going to be my Bitfarms target. All right, that's Bitfarms. Let's close it out with good old Marathon Digital. Again, it's been a while, but it's always good to revisit the OGs. Marathon Digital, I'll keep it short and sweet here. Mara, again, has fell significantly hard, and at one point, the share price was lower than Riot's, and because Mara has a lower float, or overall total of total shares in rotation, the market cap was significantly lower than Riot's as well. Okay, so for all you OGs who said Riot would never overtake Mara, it did happen. All right. Anyway, Mara, again, you fall hard, you bounce hard. Mara probably had a lot of short volume on it. I'm not aware of the short volumes, but the price action we're seeing right now does lead me to. Does definitely imply that there was some pretty strong short squeezing going on in today's price action. But regardless, the technicals are looking great. Mara still has significant room to bounce, and really, this is almost the easiest trade of the three, because Mara has a very, very evident line of resistance that's been in place since August 11th. So this top line, cyan line, or blue line, is overall resistance using that single candle wick. As you guys know, I'm not really comfortable trading those, but I am comfortable trading this trend line with multiple touch points here, multiple daily touch points here. You can see that this creates strength under this trend line. So I do think that Mara can come up to test this trend line. In the case that we test it over the coming, so next week, Friday is January 20th. Again, the expiration on a lot of options. If we do happen to test this next Friday, that would take us to the 950 region, or about 37% up from current levels. And on top of that, to reinforce this, there is a pretty clear inverse head and shoulders pattern, like we just looked at Bitcoin printing with Mara. So again, shoulder, head. I wouldn't be surprised if we dip down, maybe even see or just plateau here and go sideways for a few trading sessions. But ultimately, I do think that this inverse head and shoulders does play out in the case that we don't rip sooner. But ultimately, I do think that we do make it up to at least $9 plus over the coming week or two. And yeah, of course, if you're holding shares, that's great. If you're holding calls, even better. So that's the video, you guys. Again, let me know in the comments down below if you are prepared for the price action we saw today, and if you're ready for what's next. I hope you guys enjoy the steak and sushi this weekend, because this is the last video of the week. But once again, if you want the daily newsletters, if you want my daily portfolio updates, first link down below, and I'll see you guys in there. Until next time, always remember, take action, make waves. Peace, team.